109. Let's get to the second Star Wars spin-off standalone film, whatever you want to call it, which is Solo: A Star Wars Story. Came out in 2018. Stars Alden Ehrenreich, Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke, Donald Glover, Junius Swadamo, Thandie Newton, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Paul Bettany, Jon Favreau, and a few others. And the synopsis is: during an adventure in the criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his future co-pilot Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian years before joining the Rebel Alliance. So when this one was announced, I think there was a lot of hesitation, a lot of questions as to just why. Why, of all the stories you could tell in Star Wars, why are we getting this one? Because the biggest issue with the movie and the overall concept is, while I love Han Solo, and hate to say it, it's not big news, but Harrison Ford is the defining Han Solo. Not to say you can't do prequels or whatever, but he's such a foundational part of that character since the beginning. And not only that, but just his charisma as that character, that casting somebody else is 99.9% of the time going to be an issue because they're not going to be able to match it, which I understand it's a younger version, so he may not have all of the things worked out, or he may not be his true, confident, charismatic self. But not only that, I mean, I think that's still an issue in this, sorry, but it is. And then more than that, even, it's that Han Solo is a very, very intentionally so, a very broad archetype character. We know who he is. He's a sort of rebellious, reluctant hero, leading man kind of thing, where he marches to the beat of his own drum. He's a ladies' man. He can fight, he can get himself out of situations. He's got some wisdom and some cleverness. We don't need any sort of backstory as to understand where he came from. That's the point of like an archetype, is they're very easy to understand. And that's why all the characters in the originals are so easy to understand, is because they're all basically like that. And so having this movie try to lead us to the point of where we would first meet him is so unnecessary. The whole plot, the whole drive of the movie feels not inert, but feels so unnecessary. And of all the stories you could tell, I think you could have found something like Rogue One, where it really does feed into, all right, how did we get here? We don't need to know how Han Solo got to where he is in the first movie. We get it. We can put the pieces together. So I think that's the biggest problem of all. And Ron Howard, I know he was hired after, he was replacing someone else, which I think is a mistake. I don't hate Ron Howard, but he's sort of like J.J. Abrams, where his direction is very vanilla. If you need someone to come in and fix things to make an accessible, average movie, he's your guy. Not to say he doesn't have good movies. I think Rush, In the Heart of the Sea, and some others are very good movies, but for the most part, his direction is very, it's lacking an identity, in my opinion, most of the time. And there aren't many memorable moments for the most part in his career. Hate to say it, but that's how I feel. But even putting that aside, though, I think it's still decently directed. The script is all right. I don't mind Alden Ehrenreich. I like him in general, and I really like Emilia Clarke in this. And Donald Glover, like him a lot as Lando. I think he works as that character. Love Woody Harrelson. So overall, the casting is good. There aren't any real big flaws. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, love her in general. So no issues with that. And I do think, though, actually one thing I do really like is I think it looks great. I love the brownish, golden, copper, sort of rugged, hazy cinematography. I think the movie looks really good. Some people maybe call it too murky. I don't really mind that. I think it looks refreshingly unglossy. Similar to Rogue One, I think Rogue One still looks better, but I still really, every time I watch, I'm like, dang, this movie looks really good. I don't know if that's direction, cinematography, or both, but very good looking movie, in my opinion. The train action sequence, very strong. And also the look of the droids in this. I'm a sucker for a good droid design, especially like in the prequels. Big fan of those. So design-wise, production-wise, costume, good. But it is just still suffering from that lack of purpose. And so while there are parts of the movie that I'm engaged and I'm caring about, there's still more than the same amount, if not more, me saying, this does not need to exist. And so I don't think it's horrible. It's still watchable. It's entertaining. It's not too long. It's sort of a old school action film, action hero. I like that. But it is my, let's see, of the five, would be my second to least favorite of all five movies, with Rise of Skywalker being at the bottom and then this right above it. So it's one I can go back to every so often, and I do. I've seen it 2-3 times at this point, and it does the job. You know, it's not offensively bad. It's just a little vanilla, too vanilla, a little Ron Howard vanilla. Sorry if that's mean. So anyway, that is a light 3 out of 5.